Access to Capital 101, Funding Options to Start and Grow Your Business. My name is Mary Overbey, and I am with Small Business Majority. We are a national nonprofit. I'm located in the Springfield, Missouri location, and we are focused on small business education and advocacy. Like I said, we are national. You can see where we are located, see if there's an office near you. You can go onto our website and see what kind of staff people are in your location. We focus on a variety of issues that are of importance to small businesses, not just access to capital, and I welcome you to go check those out on our website at your convenience. Today we're going to talk about some access to capital focused topics during my portion of the presentation. We're going to talk about some key questions to ask when you're seeking funding, some different resources that are available to you as a small business owner, and we're going to talk about the Small Business Borrower's Bill of Rights, and then some resources and tools available. So according to scientific polling, an overwhelming 90% of small business owners nationwide agree the availability of credit is a problem for small business. This is supported by work that we do with the small business organizations on the ground, as well as hearing directly from small business owners themselves. We found out, a little bit of why this is happening. Some of the big things, small business bank lending is down 20% since before the Great Recession. Mainly because banks are more risk averse. They have stricter underwriting standards now, and the return on investment for them is not as large when they write for a small business loan as for when they write for a larger business. Not only that, small businesses were hit pretty hard by the Great Recession. So we suffer from devalued collateral, damaged credit scores, and reduced cash flow, making us less creditworthy by today's lending standards. So the good news is, though, that there are more options available than ever before to help you start and grow your business. We're going to talk about some more traditional sources of funding in our presentation today, but we're also going to focus on some of those more alternative lending options. We're not going to cover everything that you see here today, but you can visit our Access to Capital online resource portal, as well as our partners portals, especially Accion, and find out more about some of these different options. So as you get started on your Access to Capital search, it's really important to start with planning first, which is largely why we have these presentations and we're doing this series on business planning. It's very important to consider different questions, and we'll talk more about that later, so I'm just going to gloss over this. But just remember that step one is always talking to yourself, finding out what you need, how much you need, and how quickly you need it, and then you know where you need to go from there. So once you get into looking, once you've got your business plan created, your strategic plan created, then you can figure out where do I go for help and where can I access some of these funding sources that are specific to small businesses. And one of the first ones I want to talk about is Community Development Financial Institutions, or CDFIs, which is how you'll hear them referred to the majority of the time. CDFIs is a financial institution that caters really to underserved entrepreneurs and low-income communities. They typically have a specific geographic region that they work with. Some CDFIs, such as Accion, which is our partner today, have locations throughout the country, and so that they have a much broader reach for who they can serve. We work a lot with the St. Louis CDFI, Justine Peterson, to provide resources in the Missouri area. So based on your location, finding a CDFI near you is a really good resource for you as a small business owner. Some of the pros and cons, CDFIs are normally very competitive with their rates. And that's something that is often hard to find when you're a small business because you are at a higher risk than a large business, as we discussed a moment ago. And they are great for business owners and entrepreneurs who are unable to secure traditional bank loans. And they often offer additional business technical assistance, and that's something that you won't find with every funding source that we're going to talk about today. So that's a really great pro. You can see a website down there at the bottom, and once again we will be sending out the slides after this. So if I go too fast or if you want that website, just note that will be coming to you in a PDF format. So the SBA is another resource out there for small businesses. SBA is not a lender, but they do guarantee business loans through certain financial institutions. They have their most common programs, or their primary programs there, the Advantage and Grow Loan. Those were up until December known as 7A and CDC 504. So if you've heard about their 7A program, it's now called the Advantage program, and the CDC 504 is now the Grow Loan. So SBA doesn't necessarily loan, but they do offer you as a, basically they're your collateral. That way you can get very competitive rates. You get longer loan terms. You will not have any balloon payments as you get further in if the interest rate or a prime mortgage goes up. You can find SBA approved lenders near you, and then you can also talk to some of their guaranteed partners. There's 4 mentor programs, women business centers, and small business development centers across the nation. Community banks is they're something that hasn't traditionally been the first thought in a business owner's mind for small business lending. And they're small local banks. They pride themselves on customer service and one-on-one service, knowing their clients. They're usually locally owned and operated, and so therefore they're heavily invested in the local community. I know my husband and I are business owners as well, and we utilize community banks for our business lending and for all of our services. And it's really nice walking in and they know our names and our kids' names, and they're really invested in making sure that we succeed. So if you are looking at an alternative source other than your national banks, community banks are good ones to sit down and talk to and find out what resources they have available. They do have that commitment to the local community. Sometimes it does take a little longer to get approval. They have very strict underwriting sometimes, but sometimes they can do more for you as a small business owner. You can find local credit unions there at the link down below, or community banks as well. So this is sort of where we want to get to today, and I've got another 7 minutes with you, so I'm going to fly through. Please remember we will get these slides here after the presentation as well. But Alternative Online Lenders is sort of a new resource that has came about for small businesses that didn't exist a decade ago. This is something that has popped up because of the decline in bank lending, and it is based out on the Internet. It's technology-based. It's largely unregulated right now, and everybody's different. So when you are looking at utilizing an alternative online lender, you really need to proceed with caution. Do your research, do your homework, and make sure that you are comfortable with what you're getting into. So let's talk about a couple of different ones. Most of the online marketplace lenders that you're going to talk to are focused on transparency. They should be able to provide you with everything that you ask them for and pricing and on their process. You should know after your meeting if it is a fixed mortgage, multi-year term, what's their APR, will it go up? All of these questions you need to be asking them to make sure that when you walk out, you know exactly what you're getting. So online cash flow lenders generally offer the short-term loans, and it's typically working capital. Perhaps the most important difference of online cash flow lenders is their payment structure. So loan payments are made by deductions of a fixed amount or percentage of sales on a daily basis rather than an interest rate. The lender will require access to your business bank account or your payment system. So examples of these are On Deck or Kpis, spelled with a K. And they basically will give you a daily amount, and you should know, once again, if they're being transparent, you should know exactly what your payment will be each day. We have utilized a loan for our business through On Deck, and we pay $77 a day. We know for how long, when we can refinance, and how long that's going to take us. We have an online portal that we can look at. It's very, very transparent. Those do not work for everyone. You have to make sure you have enough cash flow in order to make those payments back on a daily basis without putting your business in harm. Merchant cash advance providers have been around for decades. They are typically the business equivalent of a payday loan. These lenders are actually credit card payment processors, so they advance cash to small businesses, and then because they handle the payment, they take a percentage of sales every day until the loan plus a premium is paid back. These advances are typically short-term at a very high cost. So just advice for you guys, if you're looking at this option, we understand that there are times when as business owners we need cash quick. You've had a large piece of equipment go down. It's essential to your daily function. You can't make business without it, but you don't have that amount available, and you can't wait for a traditional loan to go through. If that's the case, that's why these types of funding options are there. But they should be a last resort. You need to be really cautious of deceptive and aggressive sales and advertising. That's a lot of what you'll see is from MCAs. And make sure that you understand all of their fees before you go in and get started. Crowdfunding is a fairly new resource, but there is a lot of money that goes through crowdfunding sites. Kickstarter is one of the most popular ones. It's had more than $1 billion raised since 2009 for just a variety of projects. So these are a platform. They typically take a fee out of any of the money that you raise, so make sure that you're aware of how much that is. But it taps into your resources, so your friends, your family, and then people that you have never met before, and inspires them to donate or invest. All right, we talked about this earlier, just why there's been a decline in the bank lending, and with that decline we saw an increase in predatory lending. And so that's why Small Business Majority partnered up with national organizations, Accion being one of those, to develop the Small Business Borrowers Bill of Rights. If you go to responsiblebusinesslending.org, you can see all of the businesses that have signed on to that, and you can look at those and make sure that who you're working with has agreed to these Borrowers Bill of Rights, that you should get transparent pricing, they're not going to have any debt traps, no hidden fees. It's got responsible underwriting, so it's an alignment of interest for you. It's right for you. They're not trying to sell you something that doesn't benefit you and that you personally just don't need. These borrowers are ones that have said, we are going to do the right thing by our clients, and we want you to be a part of that. So these are some questions for you to ask as you're looking at your lender, and you will get these in your PowerPoint slides. If you have questions on them, please put them in the chat box and we can jump back to this. But if you go onto our website as well, you can see this full list as well as others. But make sure that you talk to them. What's your interest rate? Are there any upfront fees? What are my payment amounts? And then how often? Is it daily? Is it monthly? How often do I have to pay you? If I pay extra, will I have a penalty? Can I pay off early? If I refinance, do you add fees in? So there are a lot of things out there that it's really important for you to know before you get in and sign on that bottom line so that there aren't any surprises and you can get the best bang for your buck. These are some of the groups that made up our Small Business Lending Coalition. Accion is here with us today. We're going to hear from Lauren in just a second, and she'll talk to you more about what they do. As you can see, we had a really great group that we were able to work with. We were very lucky to have these people on our side in developing this because they know what's best for the client, and they were able to provide that. If you need help with this and you have more questions, there are a lot of resources out there that are available. Consider talking to local resources such as your local chambers, core mentors, SBDCs, but also some of these prominent players that are listed here for you. Okay, as I said, my name is Mary Overbey. I'm based out of Missouri, but we do work nationally. Here's a couple of different ways that you can connect with us at Small Business Majority, and then there's a lot of ways to get involved. We are always looking for a small business owner to have more questions that we can refer to local resources or to some of our national resources, people who want to talk to their papers but maybe don't know how, or they want to get involved on a national level. So if you have any of those desires, please feel free to reach out to me after this. There is our website. Like I said, we do a lot more than just access to capital. We have a lot of education and resources out there for small businesses, so please do go check that out. And then with that, I am extremely pleased to introduce you to Laura Rosenbaum with Accion US Network. And Lauren, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thanks, Mary. And I just wanted to say that Small Business Majority has been an incredible partner to Accion in providing training and education to business owners and also in advancing responsible lending practices nationwide. So, Mary showed some of the organizations that started with the small business lending, with the, as supporters of the Borrower's Bill of Rights. And I'm proud to say that over 80 organizations are now signed on. So I'm going to just give a little bit of information about who we are and how you can find more information about us. But I wanted to leave plenty of time for you to hear from our guest speaker today. So Accion is a nonprofit lender. We are a network of community development financial institutions that provide lending and personalized advising to business owners across the country. And we really pride ourselves in partnering with you at all stages of your business, of that lending journey, starting with the loan application process itself. So we have consultants across the country who really are there to help you prepare your loan application and put your best foot forward. And then we offer business resources and training both online and at in-person events. And those are available whether you're a client of Accion or not. And we also offer really a community of business owners who are there supporting each other. Many of our clients are mentors. They are speakers at our events. And oftentimes they even will collaborate together on business ventures after, for example, meeting at one of those networking events. And so we really also pride ourselves on this approach because we know that it works. Like many community development financial institutions, we have business survival rates that are much, much higher than average for small businesses. So since 1991, 97% of the businesses that we funded have remained open. And so, again, I want to give a lot of time for our guest speaker, but here is some more information that you'll get with the slides after this presentation. Our website, if you have general inquiries, if you want to know, who to call or how to contact us, there's the general inquiries about us page. And then we also have business resources, articles and videos on all different topics on how to start or grow your business, as well as workshops and events online and also locally across the country. So I encourage you to check that out. And now I will turn it over to Felina Hansen, who is a longtime entrepreneur, a published author, and most recently she founded Hera Hub, which is a really innovative co-working concept that's expanding nationally. So thank you again for having me, and I will turn it over to Felina.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate the introduction. Well, I am really excited today to talk about small business strategic planning. And being a small business owner myself for now almost 14 years, and working with thousands of small business owners through the Hera Hub community, you don't always hear people say they are excited to talk about strategic planning. Typically what comes to mind is, having to lock yourself in a dark conference room for a day or two with your team and, revisit where you're going as a company, what are your core values, just what's the vision and how are we going to get there. So I do a lot of strategic planning with our members, our community, at Hera Hub, and I typically do that in a very hands-on, workshop-oriented fashion. In fact, I actually once a year take a group of women outside of San Diego, which is where I am. In fact, we've been to Greece. This year we're going to Sweden to do our strategic planning. So I'll talk a little bit about that, about where to do your strategic planning. So with that, I'm going to jump ahead here. Hopefully I have control of the slides. Let's see. Yep, I think we are good. So this is my particular approach to strategic planning, not only for my business, which is, again, a shared workspace designed specifically for female entrepreneurs. We have 3 locations here in San Diego, and now we're expanding internationally through a licensing model. So we're in Washington, D.C. We have an open location, Stockholm, Sweden, Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm working on a handful of other cities right now. So this is the process I go through every year and take my team through, but also in, again, a workshop style, lead lots of folks through every single year. And what I want to emphasize here is what I call the one-page business plan. Interestingly enough, I actually taught college for 8 years when I had my first business, and I taught entrepreneurship, which a big part of that was, the traditional 30, 40-page business plan. And what I want to say is if you are going for kind of more traditional funding, as Mary covered, you're trying to get, a bank loan, you're, trying to, use some of the more traditional channels, you probably are going to need that 30-page business plan, potentially. But as a small business owner, at the point I'm at, and a lot of my members who are not necessarily seeking financing at that particular moment, you may not need that 30-page business plan. So I'm a huge advocate of what I call the one-page business plan, and there's going to be a PDF that's sent to all the participants after with my version of the one-page business plan of what I do, and these are the categories of what we cover in that. So I'm going to go through a few of those today and give you some examples. Unfortunately, in the short time we have, I can't get through all of them, but we'll get through some of them. So as you might imagine, kind of part one of strategic planning for you and your business needs to be thinking about the big picture. And at Hera Hub, our sort of unofficial motto is go big or go home, because we're a shared workspace, a co-working space. And really my mission, my job in our community is to help our members just do that, think bigger, think beyond, where they are in their business, really help them look forward and say, where do I want to be in 5 years? What does that look like? And really painting a picture is usually what we talk about, whether that's, through images online or even a vision board, doing a vision board session, of really looking at what is my business, what does my life look like 5 years from now. And then the second step of that first process is then dialing into, okay, similarly, what does my business, my life look like 1 year from now? And I can speak for myself as a small business owner. I have a small team. I have 5 employees. But at the end of the day, I am the business in a lot of ways. And so, again, painting that picture, it's not only what the business looks like, but I want to emphasize it's what my life looks like as that business owner. So I will say one note on the 5-year plan. Again, I take a group of women to do strategic planning, outside the country each year. And this 5-year discussion has really affected people in some big ways, where when you really step back and say, okay, I want my life to look like this 5 years from now, and it looks like this currently, it can be an eye-opener. So give yourself some time to really think about that. And then we use sort of a different version. I'm sure most of you have heard of SMART goals, right? We choose to use the acronym of ARMED goals. So, of course, actionable, realistic, measurable, and dated. And I'll give you some examples of that in just a minute here. So starting with the big picture, our vision, our 5-year goal, if you will, for actually the last about year and a half is when we put this together, is to support over 20,000 women in the launch and growth of their business by 2020. And I want to encourage you as a business owner to get specific. When somebody asks you what your big, hairy, audacious goal is, the more specific you can be, the more you're going to galvanize your team, your community, the folks that are around you, to hopefully inspire them to be part of that vision. And that's been a big piece of how I've grown my business, is just getting very specific on what exactly I'm going towards, how many people I want to serve, by when, what am I doing to help them. It really can galvanize your community together. So as part of our strategic planning process, of course, we then, we start off at the 30,000-foot level, as I like to say, and then we get down to like the 10,000-foot level, if you will, of getting more granular into what are your top, I usually say 8 to 12 goals for the next 6 months. Very, very specific, and again, armed, so we need to make sure that they're dated, which we've got that box checked because we're saying in the next 12 months. But where I see a lot of people miss the mark is that measurable piece. So just bullet points, what am I going to achieve? What's the business going to do in the next 12 months? So I want to give you my examples, and then as part of this exercise, I really want you to think about categories, because a lot of times when I take folks through this process of their 8 to 10, 12 goals for the year, they sometimes will lean all into one area of their business, sales related or business development related. But remember, there are more aspects of your business than just making money, right? And so you may want to think about categories of marketing, business development, of course, sales, your team. Who are your strategic alliances? Do you want to set goals around number of strategic alliances or types? And then goals around operations as well. So I won't read through my goals because you're going to get a copy of this presentation afterwards. But really, again, being very armed in how we lay out our goals for the year, how we measure our goals. All right. And then one side note caveat where I see a lot of folks get stuck as well is make sure these are goals, not tasks. And so an example would be, as a goal, find 10 new licensing agreements in 2017, right? And a task that would fall under that is update the HeraHub.com expansion site with the latest information. So a lot of times folks will say, I want to update my website as a goal. Well, why are you doing that? What's the outcome of that? Is that to land new clients or reach into a new industry? All right. And what I want to emphasize here is, and what I push folks on, because as we get to this next step where we start to outline, okay, great, you have these 8 to 12 goals for the year, how are you going to get them done, right? You probably need support. You probably need a team around you. If you're a solopreneur, you may need to hire a consultant or hire an assistant or somebody that can help you achieve these goals. So I want to emphasize that you may not be able to do and achieve all of this alone, so to speak. And the second part of the goal setting exercise is really where that comes to light for folks that I lead through this process, because they really start to, as we plot this out on the calendar and we look at, okay, at what point in the year are you going to achieve this goal, right? And it could be, for me, signing 10 licensing agreements by the end of 2017. I might put what I refer to as milestones and say, okay, great, by May I want to have 8 people in our market assessment process, for example. So I'm kind of setting these markers throughout the year to make sure I'm staying the course and hopefully hitting those goals by the end of the year. All right, let's talk about tracking. Because it's one thing to set goals, it's an entirely different thing to actually make sure that you've achieved those goals. So we, as part of this conversation and as part of your one-page business plan, and I don't have time to go into it here, but we're big fans of what's referred to as key performance indicators, KPIs. And so that's a way you can really dial in to tie your key performance indicators to your goals on an annual basis and then track that monthly. So we run our KPIs every single month so we can see how we're tracking towards our annual goals. But tracking goes beyond just the KPIs. It's how do you communicate with your team and make sure everybody's on the same page as it relates to achieving these goals. So just a couple platforms. Trello.com is a platform I use for a variety of aspects of my business. Think of it like visual sticky notes. You can set due dates. You can tie it to your calendar. I run some accountability groups for folks that go through the strategic planning that we do at Hera Hub, and each of them have their own Trello board with their monthly goals and then their tasks that fall under those goals, tied to due dates and things of that nature. It's mostly free. You can pay to upgrade, but you can use it, probably and not needing to upgrade. There's plenty of capability in it. Asana is a project management platform, so it would be a little more robust than Trello. They also have a free version. If you're doing a lot of collaboration with team members, Asana may be another platform to look at that's a little more robust, but a little more complicated. That's why I like Trello. It's pretty simple. And then we're actually developing a platform that's in beta right now called trackmygoals.biz that as we take folks through strategic planning, this is the platform where they're going to be tracking and looking at the measurements and results of their goals. All right. So what I like to say is strategic planning isn't just about goals. Of course, there's more that goes into it. This is actually an image of the group that I took to Catalina last October doing our strategic planning. Plenty of colorful sticky notes and pens abound. So a couple of the other things that I really take folks through and walk through for my own business every year, and I'll just highlight a couple of these because we're a little short on time today. So number one, and this is a big eye-opener for a lot of folks, what I call a revenue funnel. And there's a lot of different names for this particular exercise, if you will. But the main premise here is really looking at how do folks come into your business? What's that top-level touch point? It could be word of mouth. It could be social media. It could be through something they read online. So how do people come into your revenue funnel, as I call it? And then knowing that not everybody is going to engage you for a $20,000 contract after, following you on Twitter, how do you inch them into a relationship with you, kind of the breadcrumb theory, I like to call it. And so this is where I see a lot of business owners, especially professional service providers, miss the mark a little bit. They don't have any kind of lower-end offerings. Again, it's a handshake and here's my contract for $20,000 or whatever the number is. And so it's just something to think about. How can you engage with folks maybe who are not ready to engage at the higher level, but give them a taste test of your services? An important exercise to do for your business and with your team if you have a team. All right, another exercise that is an important part of our annual strategic planning is really looking at our strategic alliances. And I'm going to just spend a little more time on this particular topic. Strategic alliances are those folks that are your kind of your brand advocates, if you will. There are people out there that are other businesses that are complementary to your business and also serve the same target market. And so the classic easy example of this would be an attorney and a CPA, right? They're serving maybe both a small business client. They do two different things, but there's an opportunity to potentially refer business back and forth to one another. I come from a marketing background. I spent my first 10 years of my career in the world of corporate marketing, and I love marketing, but for so many small business owners, they get so tangled up in Twitter and Instagram and all these social channels and kind of miss what I think the basics are, which is building a strong roster of strategic alliances. So we talk a lot about a trigger point. The trigger point is the point at which your potential client knows they need your services, the point in which something happens, right? So the example I always like to give is you're hosting a dinner party at 7 o'clock, it's 5 p.m., you've got 25 people coming over at 7, and you have a pipe break in your house, okay? You've got water gushing everywhere. The trigger point there is the pipe breaks, right? So you call a plumber. That's a trigger point. So who else is in the life of your customer at the point in which they know that they need your services, so to speak? And one thing I just want to emphasize before I move on to a couple examples here is a lot of folks get tangled up in, does this have to be a two-way street? And my answer is, sure, ideally that would be great if it is a two-way street, meaning you can refer clients to them and vice versa. But not always mandatory. Sometimes, people just want to know that their client's taken care of when they give a referral. It doesn't mean you always have to build a relationship where there's referrals going both ways. So I'm giving just a few examples of our strategic alliances. What I like to do is kind of put folks in buckets. So we have our business coaches bucket, our leaders of public organizations bucket, outplacement and career counselors bucket, and female-focused leaders bucket. And then in those buckets, who are the specific people that I want to continue to build relationships with for potential referrals, and then prioritizing them, because we know we can't build those relationships with everybody at the same time. And so prioritizing who am I going to focus on first to build those relationships and continue the dialogue with these individuals. And then last thing I want to leave you with on the strategic alliance concept is once you start to build some of these strategic alliances, these strategic partners, if you will, how are you going to, what I like to say, softly stay in front of them? How are you going to remind them that you're there, not daily, obviously, but maybe monthly or quarterly? How can you continue to build a relationship with them? And that's where social media can come in handy. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, for example, and I had a gentleman that I went to college with, I won't tell you how many years ago, who reached out to me to reconnect. He just sold his software company, and he wants to do some mentoring of women in technology. And he saw a LinkedIn update that I had put out, a video I had done, and really just he liked what I was saying and followed up with me. I mean, literally quite a few years later, LinkedIn is a great way, and Twitter and Facebook, to softly stay in front of those folks and remind them what you're doing. And if you can, create what I call like a mastermind or a referral group with some of your top strategic alliances. All right, so as we round up this conversation, I want to allow you to give yourself permission, so to speak, to pivot because I see a lot of small business owners put a lot of pressure on themselves. Yes, goal setting is incredibly important, but you are going to have to shift. It's not always going to line up exactly. God bless if it does, but for most of us, things are going to change. Things are going to shift, and you may not hit your goals in the exact way that you would hoped you were going to hit them. Give yourself permission. And I'm sure some of you have seen this image floating around social media. And this is a good illustration of what I'm talking about. Yes, we're all going to be successful. We're all going to get there. But success definitely can have a windy road from time to time. So I just want to say, give yourself a break on that. So again, just to revisit the areas of the one-page business plan, we talked about a few today, and again, you're going to get a PDF with this kind of outline of the one-page business plan. And then the last two things I want to mention around this is when and where. So the reason why we're having this conversation in January is certainly a great time, but I would even encourage you, we typically do our strategic planning at the end of November, beginning of December for the upcoming year. It's certainly not too late if you haven't done it. I encourage you to do it. But I also want to encourage you to get out of your office, get away. This is, again, the group that I took to Catalina last fall. We went to this great little island, had a lot of time to reflect and walk and think and support each other and ask questions. Give yourself that opportunity to step away, get away if possible, to really have some perspective on your business. And then last but not least, the accountability piece. Again, this comes down to tracking, but what I want to encourage you even beyond tracking is find support, find community. That is what Hera Hub is and what many co-working spaces offer. So find a co-working space or an organization in your city that can support you and keep you accountable to your goals for the year, keep you on track, so to speak. So with that, I want to mention I just published a book last year called Flight Club, which is a book that's really targeted at folks that maybe haven't quite taken flight yet as an entrepreneur. They're thinking about leaving their job and starting their business, but maybe you're a bit scared and not quite sure which direction to go in. And so through this book, I share my story of entrepreneurship, stories of other women, but also exercises to help the reader kind of get clear on what type of business they may want to launch based on their skills and their vision and their passions. And then last but not least, the last section of the book is a very simple step-by-step 17-step process on actually how to launch your business, the nuts and bolts that people sometimes tend to not want to focus on. They want to do the fun stuff like marketing and branding. And there's an online platform called Steps to Startups that the reader gets 3 months free access to support and video and content around business launch. So that's available on Amazon. And my contact information is there. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'll pass it back to Mary.
Felina, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that we started off our planning series by talking with you today because this has just been great information as you're looking at the year ahead of you and really want to know how how to get approved from lenders. You know, step one is strategic plan. Know where you're going, know who your clients are, and know where you want to be. So just thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today. We did have some questions come in. We had quite a few, so we'll get to as many of them as we can. If we are not able to get to your question specifically, I've got all of our contact information up, and you can reach out to us through these channels to follow up with us specifically. I do encourage you to follow up with Felina and Lauren and find out more about their organization and what they can do for you as a business owner. So for that, we're going to get into our questions. So Lauren and Felina, if you guys are there, we're going to get started. Felina, we had some come in. One that came in was asking about goal versus task. Can you go over that again, the best way to establish a goal versus making it task-oriented?
Yeah, great question. So what I like to say is push yourself to say, what's the outcome of this? So I'll go back to the example, and it's one that comes up a lot when we do strategic planning with folks. It's, I want to redesign my website, right? Well, I call that a task. And so the way you can get to the true goal of that is just to ask yourself, okay, so why am I doing this? What's the desired outcome from developing a new website? So the goal might be, I want to take my business into a new industry or a new market. And so to make that an arms goal, it might be, I want to secure 5 new clients in the food industry by the end of 2017. And the way I'm going to do that is revamp my website, new copy targeting that industry, attend some trade shows around the food industry, and join the local food association group, right? Those are all tasks underneath the goal of landing 5 new clients in this industry segment.
Thank you for that clarification. That's a question that we hear a lot as well as people are seeking funding, is just here are the things we want to do, but where are we going with those? So thank you for the clarification on goal versus task-related outcomes.
Sure.
Okay, our next question is actually related to that. Somebody came in and asked, you had mentioned your trackmygoals.biz site that is in beta right now, and they would like to know when approximately you're thinking about launching that.
Yeah, good question. Like all software platforms, you have high hopes and then things go wrong. But we have had some folks kind of playing around with that platform for the last couple months. So the person asking the question can certainly send me an email and I can send some info back. But the hope is to have that ready for at least a more prime time beta by the end of February, so in about a month.
You can also watch our social media sites, because we'll try to make sure and get some information out about that. And I know you'll be posting on that as well when you launch that, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, so you see Felina's Twitter feed right there. Go on and follow her, and then that'll give you access to that information up to date, as well as other great tidbits that she puts out there. Another question is, does Accion offer a line of credit? Lauren, do you want me to take that one, or are you going to take that one?
I can take that one. The main offering that Accion has is a term loan. That being said, as I mentioned, we are a network of community development financial institutions, and in our local markets, our lenders have experimented with different types of product offerings, based on what they see as a need in their market. So if you visit our website, the phone number that shows up for you and the kind of loan options that show up for you are actually going to be based on your location. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Give us a call. We really make an effort to tailor our offering to your individual needs. And so it's really going to be different for everyone. And, you know, for example, in some of our markets, we actually offer SBA-backed loans, which is something that, that Mary mentioned. And so we really have a broad diversity of solutions depending on your individual needs. So definitely check out the website, give us a call. Our loan consultants are much better prepared to talk about specific financial offerings with you. So definitely encourage you to call them. And even if you go on our website and start your application form, that's going to get the process going to talk with a loan consultant for them to work with you to improve your application. So encourage you to do that as well.
Thank you, Lauren, for taking that one. Just a reminder, Accion is one of our founders of the Small Business Borrowers Bill of Rights and one of our developers on that. So you can rest assured that when you reach out to them that they are following those guidelines, and any of the loans that they connect you with, if they are a guarantor versus a lender, are also going to be following those guidelines. So that's good to know. Okay, so we have a question on it says, my husband has a few business ideas he would like to pursue. However, he's not sure where to start. Can you tell me where you would recommend he go to seek help or guidance? So there are a lot of different places that we recommend. We recommend reaching out to your local SCORE mentors or your local Small Business Development Center offices. Also chambers of commerce, as well as business coaches. So Felina is an example of a really great resource that's available to help people as they are trying to figure out how to get where they want to go and what business ideas to pursue. Additionally, CDFIs such as Accion often provide technical assistance and SBA, so they can actually sit down and help you with your business plan and make sure that that's right. Felina, do you have anything you want to add to that? I wanted to make sure we talked about SCOREs and SBDCs, but do you have anything, any other recommendations, or Lauren?
I'll echo that. Those are free resources. There's free mentoring. I just want to emphasize, you know, typically when you reach out to SCORE and the SBDC, they'll assign you a mentor. It's okay to say, you know what, I really enjoyed meeting this person, but I'd also like to meet somebody else within the organization. You know, ask for a couple opportunities to meet different mentors to find the right mentor for you based on experience and where you want to go. But yeah, that's a $30 million question, right? What business do I start? I address that a little bit in the book through some of the exercises around, you know, aligning your strengths and your passions and your vision into a business idea.
Yeah, and this is Lauren. I am not a business owner, but I talk to business owners all the time working at Accion. And one thing that I've heard from them is, you know, if there's somebody who's doing something that you think that you might want to do, don't be afraid to reach out to them. Ask if you can, you know, shadow them or volunteer at their business for a day. And that can really give you some great insight into, is that, you know, really something that you want to do. You can talk to them and learn, you know, some of the lessons that they've learned in starting their businesses. And so they've, you know, that's really been super helpful to some of the folks that I've talked to, and sometimes it can transition into kind of a longer mentoring relationship as well.
That is such a good point, and thank you for bringing that up. I mean, that's why we have job shadowing programs in high school, that exact reason. You figure out if it might be something you like. We have time for one more quick question, I believe, and so I want to hit this one because it talks about the financial section of your business plan. It says, I need help with the financial section of my business plan. The SBDC was not very helpful. Where else can I go? So SCORE is one option that we recommend. Once again, the mentoring. You can also reach out to your local CDFIs and other micro lenders in your area, as many other technical assistance programs for borrowers. We do have a list of TA providers on our Access to Capital resource portal. So you can go on there and get some names of places that would be good to talk to. Also community banks, they do provide more one-on-one assistance than a larger bank, so they might be somewhere to go. Lauren, do you have any more advice on that as a CDFI?
Yeah, again, I would say check out our website. If there's an office near you, visit us and you can talk to some of our loan consultants. And you can also, really great way to start is to go online and start the application process. And again, as I mentioned before, that kind of starts the process of getting that assistance in terms of how to complete your application, including the financial section. And also, if you go to our business, if you go to our business resources, there's tons of articles and videos. You can search for specific topics, so that's a great place as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, Felina, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for being with us today and for launching our 2017 Business Planning Series sponsored by Small Business Majority and Accion. This was absolutely wonderful to have you today. I will send out, like I said, slides and the template for Felina's business plan in an email along with the survey. And a link to the next 2 webinars. Those 2 webinars, we are collaborating with Silver Lining, and they will be talking about action planning and identifying your ideal client. So we'll cover the access to capital again, so if you missed that portion, please jump on with us, and then also get this additional information brought to you by Accion. So thank you so much for being a part of our day, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of yours. Thanks, everyone.